Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. In this video, I'm going to revisit the interpolation concept, but we're gonna take a look at it using Sverchok. So this is gonna be the basics. We know that interpolation concept is used in a lot of areas in 3D, from let's say from animations. If you have like a keyframe A and then keyframe B, two objects at different positions, you expect the computer will kind of interpolate the in-between for us. So that's a common knowledge. As long the two objects are in two different positions and they are also in different time, we can interpolate the two. The time being the factor and the positions being the value that's changing. So we're gonna have a look at that concept using Sverchok. This should be pretty basics, but it should be pretty interesting as well. So let's start from interpolations. Do we have interpolations? Yeah, Spreadshop have few interpolation vectors for, of course, things like points, while the matrix here for transformation. So for the matrix, it's slightly more advanced, so we might take a look at that at some point. So this is a Sverchok interpolation, and apparently we also have another thing that's called it's not line, it's a evaluate. So this is a little bit of conundrum. I think vector evaluate is actually more advanced than vector interpolations. But vector interpolation is good for if you have just a bunch of points. It can interpolate. So we're gonna take a look at this first. Vector interpolations, MK3. You have the cubic interpolations and linear interpolations, and option as cyclic or not cyclic. Let's take a look. So we can start with just a single vector in node. At the 0, 0, 0, it's fine. I can plug it to there, and then let's take a look at it in here. We have a single point here, not so useful. If we have, what if we have another points that we just place it at 3, 3, 3, plug in there, it doesn't automatically create like a list, so you need to create a vector list yourself. List join, that's what we need. So list join has this mix and wrap. Sometimes it's not quite easy to understand. You have to learn it, just test it by experimenting with it and look at the outcome. So at this moment I have this 0, 0, 0 and 3, 3, 3, and there's the join level list. At 1 it doesn't seem to do anything. At 2, however, it seems to be doing something, and then that's exactly what we expect. Let me increase the vertex size a little bit so we can see the dots. So apparently by having this guy and this guy and adjusting this the factor, it interpolates. So I've done a few example where I'm using this vector interpolations to do resampling. I might do that again real quick, but for now I'll show you that if we plug in that range float in here, just set it to count and then plug it here. Now we can see 2 points, not so useful. That's because by default range float gives the range between 0 and 10. But the thing with interpolation, sometimes no, very often you want to normalize the value. So it's normalized, meaning the value range should be between 0 and 1, and you do all the in between 0 and 1. That's how the computer like to think, I guess. So this start and stop should be between 0 and 1, and then now you have something that's more easier to understand, because you have 0 0 0, and then you have another points at the second positions, and then it interpolates between those 2 points. And just because this is Sverchok, you can kind of vectorize the in between here, and you can see the interpolations there. You can set it to cubic or linear. It's only useful if you have more than 2 points, I guess. You can have a look. So now I have more points. It interpolates all the in-betweens. So if you set it to 18 points, from this position to the end positions, it's just gonna interpolate all those points. It's like a single, kind of like a single go. You want 18 steps between those 4 points, and you get 18 steps. You want 30 steps, you have 30 steps. Now you can set it to cubic or linear. Cubic, smooth line. Cyclics being if you have, if you're drawing the curve and you want it to go back to the original position, you can do that as well. And obviously you can animate an objects to follow the path this way. If you want to set up all the points, just kind of like manually, but in a node kind of way. So we have these positions, and then even though it's like a step position, it's not like a it's kind of step, but if you increase the point, it's more like smooth kind of motions. Let's say if we animate something like a box, plug in the matrix. Let me quickly create matrix in. This is gonna be for the position of our box, I believe. So it's a single position. It's actually multiple position. Maybe I need to have like list item or list items will do the job, I guess. Plug in the box, and now the box should be traveling if we scrub in this item. Let's increase the box size and then hide the points for the box. So this is like the motion path for the box. Okay, that's one thing we can take a look at the interpolations in Sverchok. But there is also something called a vector evaluate. I have a blog article that talks about this vector evaluate and how you can create like a matryoshka kind of doll just by providing a two curve, something like that, and then this is for tiny matryoshka, and then you have like a large size matryoshka, and you interpolate between this curve and this curve, and you also do the revolve, and you get a little matryoshka, and it grows until it's become bigger and bigger, and you have big matryoshka doll, and you can actually print it out. That's using interpolation. Basically, you can use vector evaluate for that. Vector evaluate is almost like this guy, but it's slightly different. It's more useful for things like curve actually. Let me hide this now and hide that. Let's play around with this. So you can do the similar thing. You have two vectors and then evaluate. This you can evaluate between two. turn on the points and then evaluate. Okay, it does, looks like it does the same thing, right? It's just interpolating between 0 and 1. Two position, you cannot have more than 2 positions, so this is more, maybe more specialized. But you can have a random positions. You can have multiple positions. So let's say random vector, maybe 10 random vector and 10 here and 10 there. I'm not sure what happens if I have more, but have a try with this first. So with this guy we have at 0, 0, 0, and with this guy we have at that point positions, like randomly. Okay, 10, and we can adjust the factor. So it's like, you know, interpolations between two positions, but for many points. So that's, for that we can use vector evaluate. What happens if I have 20 there and then it still evaluate properly, so it doesn't seems to be a problem. So 2 position with random seed. This can be interesting actually. You can do, maybe have multiple of this. Can get pretty interesting. I don't know. I've never tried it myself, but you can evaluate from 0 to 1 here and from 0 to 1 there. Kind of like a random positions in with different seed, and then but you can create quick animation really quick, like maybe like a bunch of fireflies going around kind of going on around a light. Yeah, it's something you can try. One more thing, because this is Sverchok, it's you have the vector here. Of course, you can do the range float again, and you have something like that. And you see, because you have 2 point positions, and this is a Spreadshop doing its thing, very powerful. So you have basically like 20 different points, and then you have these interpolations. And if I'm not wrong, we can just use UV connections. Have some kind of line connecting. Does it? Okay, 3 and 3. It's kind of doing it, but not in the way that you expect, because it's kind of connecting all the lines. Maybe we need to slice it. Least slice or least split. This is a kind of thing that I'm still trying to understand in Sverchok. So we're slicing. If we're slicing with the same number, okay, split by 3 give us this thing. But I think I slice it in 3 is wrong, because I have 12 in here, maybe, so slice by 12. Now we have more correct result here. So yeah, that's 10 different lines there, and you can even randomize it. So a lot of things you can do in Spreadshop that give you kind of similar result, but they are also different, and sometimes you have a setup that's really clever. It's kind of, you never thought about this, and then apparently you can do that. That's quite interesting. So you can use this setup if you have like a 2 grease pencil. Let's say I'm drawing grease pencil that looks like that, and something that looks like that. It's just 2 lines, and I will convert this into Bezier curve. I want to separate those, so I don't want that connecting line. So I'm gonna turn off the link strokes, turn off the grease pencil. So we have the S and the B here. We want to interpolate between those two. We can do that. They should have different points number. If we go to edit mode, they're actually at the moment they're like a single objects. We can go inside and then okay, it's got a bunch of lines. There must be like different number as well. We can separate this, separate by loose part. Now they should be like different. Oops, separate by loose part. Oh, because this is a curve, it's a slightly different. I need to convert this to mesh first. Convert to mesh and then separate by loose part. Now we have two different objects. Set the origin into the geometry center. So two objects. I'll save this and save it again. Say we want to interpolate, so we have to load them. Objects in MK2. We can load them at the same time, but I'm gonna separate them just to avoid confusion. So grab the S and also grab the B. Here I want to do a resampling first. For resampling, I use the vector interpolation MK3 vector interpolation, not the vector evaluate. It's a, like I said, they're similar but two different things. With this guy, we can just plug the vertices there and then interpolate, kind of like resampling the S and the B. I want to resample them first. Here. So let's have a look. Vertices plug in there. So we can see one of them is okay, it's the B, that's the other one is the S. They are positioned at the center because I'm moving this thing around, and they are actually still at the 0, 0, 0 because I didn't apply the location. So Sverchok reads it at the original position. We need to use matrix apply first. Apply the transformation first. Okay, now they're correctly placed. So you see the S, that's the S, and this is the B. You see the points. Now we need to use float range float, and then remember it's the range should be between 0 and 1. Needs to be normalized, and I can resample those lines. Okay, maybe 20 points for the S, 20 points for the B, so they can be interpolated from S to B. And now that we have these two things resampled as points, we can just evaluate the points. It's that simple. See, S to B. This is probably something that you have seen in old package like Flash, Macromedia Flash, or now Adobe Flash. You need the same number of points, and you can interpolate between the two. Sometimes you need more in-betweeners to get the shape to interpolate nicely. But that's another thing. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much what I want to show you in this video, except that if we want to look at the matrix as well, maybe just a quick one. I didn't prepare for the matrix interpolations, but I guess it's supposed to be quite similar. Matrix interpolations. What if we have a torus in different positions, or let's just create a box here. Viewer draw. We cannot interpolate between shapes yet. I don't think so. We don't have like a proper blend shapes or morph target in Spreadshop. Maybe you can kind of do it, but not quite intuitive. I don't think. I might be wrong, but here's a vector matrix interpolations. So if we have I kind of wondering about one thing just now. I just have an idea. So if we have a single object at a we have the first position at 0, 0, 0. What if we have multiple in this one for the second one, like a random vector mk2, and we have 10, 20, plug it into the location. Now we have many. So apparently it splits, you know. Yeah, it's a kind of something that I was expecting. So if we have just a single value, it's not so interesting. It will just interpolate between first positions and the second positions. So not that important, not that interesting. Although you can of course use a range float here and interpolate it, you know. See, that's a motion trail right there. That's if you animate if you're doing animations and you see you keyframe two objects at two different positions, you can interpolate that way. Sverchok doesn't have this kind of thing yet, like a curve. You can see this in animation nodes, and you know, like the curve that you can tweak to make changes. I don't think Spreadshop doesn't have. Maybe one day. That can be useful. That's a and there's also something. This is for float, okay, for floating value interpolations, and the other one you might have in another package is called ramp. Ramp can blend between a 3-value RGB. This is actually something that Spreadshop already have in the form of this guy. Vector interpolation is 3-value kind of a blending. If you use a it's all this it's not a conundrum, it's a complexity that's sophistications that it's complexity that you can control. Basically it's how you can access this. That's normally you don't think too much about it. Normally you have okay, you set up a color, you know, red, set up another color, blue, and then you just want to see those changes. You know, you don't care about all the numbers. Sometimes you do care about the numbers, and you see these two color, red and blue. Okay, it's simple, just two color. But what if you want to have like 100 of different colors, and you want to interpolate to 100 different colors as well? You cannot. I mean, you can manually do it, but if you have many of multiple things, you want to be able to do it like in the Spreadshop, I guess, in a Spreadshop kind of way. So you can, if we have like multiple of these objects, you know, and multiple scale and multiple rotation even. Let's see, doesn't seem to work. Just now it was working, but oops, I plug in the wrong thing, that's why. Okay, that's That's the result I was expecting. So this kind of thing that's not so easy if you try to do it by hand. It's become pretty easy this way. You see here what happens is we have a single box, okay, and whatever we plug it into the matrix, this is like the transformations. Think of it, transformation and list of transformation. By now, if you follow all my live noding videos, you should understand that whatever you plug into the matrix will create all this instance of the objects. Now here we have this matrix interpolations, and it's doing this interpolations of many objects at the same time. So let's see, make this 10. See, you have objects at maybe at 0, 0, 0 scale, and you have these sudden explosions into random objects. You can have many more here. You can have one, of course, one. You can randomize the seed, whatever, and then you can have 100 suddenly. You have that. And in Sverchok, if you really want, you can have a float here that's showing up outside in the property channel. Plug in there, go to 3D view full, and then go to Spreadshop, scan for properties. So we have that thing. It's really nice. What is this integer? Oh, okay. It's we also have the integer of this value as well, so that's really nice. And then go back to compositing here. We can also have another integer for the seed. Oops. Select this and plug it into the seed. And let's rename this seed. This guy is the count, and this guy is the factor. Go back to 3D view full and then scan for props. We have the count 10, for example, okay, 10, and then randomize the seed. We have the factor that's doesn't have beginning and the end, it's just keep going. Increase the count, randomize the seed, factor, animate between nothingness and this explosion of random. So interpolation is always a nice thing. Without interpolations, it will be like you have something and then suddenly you have, you know, Mona Lisa or something. Mona Lisa with tail. Interpolations again. This is just a basic tutorial. Sometimes the process like they say it in the journey is more important than the destinations. This is the destinations. This is the starting points. The process sometimes also it's important, but also can be boring. It can be long. It's like a long time. It takes a while from someone to, you know, draw a stick figure to Mona Lisa. It's like but if you look at the process of person doing it, it's much more useful than seeing the final result. So, but in animations, you actually watch all the interpolations, whether it's a, you know, a character, whether it's just a ball doing a bouncing ball, and you watch all the interpolations, or you have like a pose, character pose, and doing dancing or some stuff. It's pose to pose animations. You animate the joints, and the joints actually interpolating. Yeah, that's actually in a 3D world, in a CG world, and especially if you're doing a node-based type of node-based procedural kind of thing, interpolations become as important as the original position and the end positions. The whatever in between is can be really powerful once if you understand how to control it. So yeah, that's a Sverchok interpolations. Hopefully you find this video useful. If you have any question, please leave it in the comments down below. I will try to answer it as fast as I can. And then thanks again for subscribing to the channel and tuning in. I'll catch you